The China Report for Thursday, June 6, 2013. North Korea is China's problem. Beijing has long seen itself as the arbitrator between Pyongyang and Washington in addressing North Korean nuclear proliferation. China's priorities have been peace and stability, denuclearization, and non-proliferation, in that order. So China pushed to preserve the status quo on the Korean peninsula. Of course, U.S. officials have tried in the past to demonstrate that the regional stability Beijing desires will only be achieved with denuclearization and that China has as much if not more at stake in ridding North Korea of its nuclear weapons program. Unfortunately, U.S. urgings that North Korea is a common problem and that joint solutions are required have fallen on deaf ears. This all started to change, however, when Kim Jong-un assumed power in North Korea. China put its credibility and patience on the line to help Kim consolidate power in the hope that he would embark upon a path of economic reform similar to China's own experience. But Beijing's vision was quickly dashed. In many areas relations with North Korea has been downgraded. The economic condition of the country is in even worse state than before. More dialogue is needed with as many nations as possible to help the North Korean people who live under difficult conditions. Does China oppose protectionism? China is committed to accelerate economic reform, move faster to a consumer-driven economy and expand imports, while strongly opposing all forms of protectionism. China, the world's second-largest economy, will in the next 5 years import $10 trillion worth of goods globally and invest $500 billion abroad. Earlier this week, the European Union said it will impose duties on imports of Chinese solar panels, infuriating Beijing despite European attempts to soften the blow with a reduced rate. China in response announced on Wednesday its own anti-dumping and anti-subsidy probe into imports of wine from the EU. The official People's Daily newspaper said on Thursday that China still has plenty more cards to play in the dispute with the EU and accused Europe of not realizing its global power was waning. How can China claim it does not encourage protectionism, when it levies heavy duties on imported goods while meanwhile flooding foreign markets with cheap goods? Another hypocrite-like claim from one of the most protected markets on earth. Chinese gold miners abused and raped. Chinese gold miners arrested this week in a raid in Ghana have been accused of raping and abusing locals. A first-person account making the allegations emerged on China's social media on Thursday after some web users speculated that Ghana police had mistreated the miners amid a crackdown. It follows state media reports that 124 Chinese gold prospectors suspected of illegal mining in the West African country were detained by local police. A majority of the workers are from Shanglin, Gangxi Province. The Chinese embassy in Ghana said no Chinese citizens detained were injured, but confusion and anger intensified among the Chinese online community after rumors claimed that Chinese-owned factories were burned down and several Chinese workers were killed during the raid. Many say the diary, headlined "Insults and Discrimination Towards the Locals Are Spreading Like a Plague in Ghana," has offered a rare glimpse into the feud between Chinese workers and locals. "I wouldn't be surprised if one day, anti-Chinese incidents happen here in Ghana," wrote the author at the beginning of his article. The writer, who has lived in Ghana and is not identified as a miner, wanted to stay anonymous, said a friend who spoke to the South China Morning Post. The article accuses the thousands of Shanglin gold miners of abusing Ghanaian workers on a daily basis. The locals work the dirtiest and toughest jobs, but are fed the most terrible food, worse than what the Chinese feed their dogs, it said. The Chinese insulted the locals whenever they wanted and called them disrespectful nicknames, it said. The diary also accused the Chinese of regularly raping and harassing local female workers. Out of fear they might lose their job, locals kept quiet and let the Chinese have their way, it said. That's the China Report for today. Zaijian.